Hi, this is Mary again from the Kona store, getting you ready for National Embroidery Month in February. So I want to talk to you today a little bit about stabilizers. It really makes a difference in your project. You want to have a stabilizer that can help you what you do. If you're doing t-shirts, you want something that's going to stick to the back so it doesn't get all stretched and distorted when you're doing the stitching on it. If you're doing something that is already made and is going to be really hard to get in the hoop, or something really thick pile like a velvet or toweling, you handle it differently because just different kinds of fabrics need different things. So one of the types of stabilizers you can get has sort of a little shiny on the back, and like interfacing, that's a fusible. You can iron it onto something like the back of your t-shirt and do the stitching, and it will help keep the stabilizer, help keep the shirt from getting distorted as the needles go through, or getting too much stretch when you put it inside the hoop. This is one that then once you're done, you can tear it away. Now, tear away works great on knits, except when you're doing lettering. If you're doing something where you want to actually be able to read the letters after you are done and after it's been washed a few times, it's a good idea to use a cutaway stabilizer that's going to stay in place. This is a particularly lightweight one, so you're not going to have a t-shirt that has big chunky squares sticking out through the knit because it's soft and it's going to fold away. So you want to choose a stabilizer that's going to be good, look good in your finished product. So something like this no-show mesh cutaway comes in both iron-on, fusible, and non-fusible. That's something you can use, and then when you're done stitching, you just trim around the edge of your stitching so that some of this is going to stay in the back of your garment or whatever it is that you've stitched. Usually clothing is what we worry about stabilizer on in particular with lettering. It's going to stay there, and so even after the garment has been washed any number of times, it's still going to help the letters stay recognizable as letters and readable as coherent words, assuming they started that way. If you have a picture of a bird and the bird, you tear away stabilizer and the bird gets a little distorted, you can still tell it's a bird. But if something has words on it or a logo on it, if it gets distorted, it can get pretty hard to tell what it was originally meant to be. I mentioned that one kind of stabilizer that can be used for hard to hoop things is the sticky back stabilizer. This has a sheet of paper on the front of a mesh, and there are variations on this where it may wash away afterwards or it may cut away afterwards, but you put this in your hoop first and then peel away the paper. And I'm going to take just a minute here to actually put this in the hoop. Okay, once you get a length that's going to be good for hooping, go ahead, line things up, get it in your hoop. It's always best to work on a flat surface. Don't try to do it up in the air, even if that seems like it's a good idea at the time. Usually what you'll find later is that your stabilizer is not lying flat and things are not turning out as you want. So once you get the hoop into place, you then tighten it down. And then you can use a pin tip or your scissor tip. Some people like making big X's across the middle. Something that's going to let you get your fingernail in and pull up that paper without damaging the stabilizer down below. Now, this kind of stabilizer can be really, really helpful for hard to hoop things. It allows you to put your decor where you want it instead of where it's easy to put it. Because if you're like me, somehow when you start a project, you get wonderful creative ideas and then figure out technically, this is not very easy to do. How am I going to get this accomplished? Well, this helps out with that kind of a dilemma, because now what I have here is this sticky tacky surface, and I can take, whether it's a tote bag I've turned inside out, or a jacket that I want to put something on the lapel or on the yoke, and it's just a matter of sticking it down here before I begin embroidering. Now, there is a drawback to using this for all the good stuff it does for you. The drawback is that this gooey, gummy stuff can transfer itself to your needle and from the needle down to the bobbin case. And unless you really want to help your technician's job security, probably that's not a good thing to do, because it means that your machine will go see that technician a lot more often. So there's now a solution for this. Within the last year or so, the Madeira Thread Company has come out with what they're calling an embroidery anti-glue needle. As near as I can tell, it's basically a needle that's been dipped in something like Teflon, and so it slides through difficult fabrics and sticky fabrics without picking up any of that residue off of the tacky, sticky surface. If it doesn't get on the needle, it doesn't get transferred to the bobbin case, and so it all stays in much better shape. Right now, the Madeira size 11 needle is what's available. Schmetz brand has also announced an anti-glue needle they're coming out with in both size 11 and 14. So when you're doing embroidery on those heavier items, there will soon also be a needle that's a good weight for that. I still keep hearing from my vendor that they're back ordered at the warehouse. So hopefully Schmetz will have it out to us soon, because that's something that makes a big difference. And not just for this sort of tacky stuff, but anything that you're having problems getting a needle to move through smoothly, to get down to the bobbin case and form the stitch without skipping stitches. I found this to be a really, really helpful tool. Okay, this is one other one you might want to be aware of from Baby Law, that is a dissolve away mesh self-adhesive. So that means it's going to have this kind of a backing, and once you've used it, then you simply immerse it in water, and this will dissolve away from the backing. So especially if you're doing something like napkins or a sheer scarf or something like that, where both sides of it are going to be shown, you don't want little bits of your stabilizer sticking out on the back side and saying, yeah, I made this myself, don't you love it? What you want is something that's just going to go away, leave a beautiful design in its wake without leaving all the signs of what you went through in order to make it work well. So the water-soluble stabilizer is good for that, and in this case water-soluble and self-adhesive, so that if you're putting it on something that needs to be hooped with this kind of a technique, it'll do that for you as well.